Hello, my name is Rhianna, and today I thought I would talk about some books I really like about being in your 20s. And your 20s are often about figuring life out, figuring yourself out, and as a consequence it can be quite a challenging and complicated time because I often remind myself that you only get one life, and I put pressure on myself to live life the best way I can when you can't really construct a perfect life. You can only really press and guess and hope for the best. But there are books. Books can help. And so today I wanted to talk about some of my favourite books that are about being in your 20s. Also, if you have any books that you really like that are about being in your 20s, please recommend them to me because I love reading these kind of books. So the first few books I wanted to talk about have a particular focus on romance in your 20s and figuring love out. And the first one is Beautiful World, What Are You by Sally Rooney. I think Sally Rooney's books are fantastic if you are a young person trying to figure out the world, because usually her characters are also young people trying to figure out the world. Beautiful World, What Are You is my favourite Sally Rooney book. It focuses on two best friends called Alice and Eileen, and Alice is a writer, quite a successful writer, but she also struggles a bit with depression, and she has recently moved to this house near the sea where she doesn't really know anyone, and she meets a man now on a Tinder date, and they have, I don't want to give anything away, but complicated relationships ensue. Then you also have Eileen. From what I remember, she lived in Dublin and worked at a magazine, and she also has this relationship plot line. And the book doesn't only focus on the romantic relationships these two characters have, but it also focuses on the relationship they have with one another. And between each point of view you get letters that Alice sends to Eileen and Eileen sends to Alice, and I love these letters, and it has a real focus on female friendship as well as romantic relationships. Maybe we're just born to love and worry about the people we know, and to go on loving and worrying even when there are more important things we should be doing. The next book is Luster by Leilani, and this book is about a 24-year-old girl named Eddie, and she is in a relationship with an older man in his 40s who also happens to be married. And so of course that means that complicated things happen. And I didn't find the relationship between Eddie and the older man the most interesting part in this novel. I found the most interesting part the relationship Eddie had with his wife and his daughter, because it happens to come about that Eddie ends up moving in with their family, but as well as the human relationship aspect that this novel focuses on. I also really liked Eddie as a character. I think she was the highlight of this book for me. I liked hearing her perspective on things. Yeah, I think if you're a person in your 20s, it's very easy to relate to Eddie and her struggles with finding a job and finding something that fulfills her. She enjoys painting, but of course making a career as a painter is very challenging. I'm good but not good enough, which is worse than simply being bad. The next book is Exciting Times by Dolan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is about a girl from Ireland who moves to Hong Kong to teach English, and she becomes sort of entangled in a love triangle between a male banker and a female lawyer. And I particularly like this novel because I am also an expat. I'm not an expat in Hong Kong, but I'm an expat in Berlin, which I think are quite two quite different expat experiences. But I'm also an English teacher, and she was an English teacher, and I think it's fairly common, I think, to move away from where you grew up when you're in your 20s to try and gain more experiences elsewhere. And this novel really focused on what that is like, and also the difficulties of finding connections with other people. I thought that if I let anyone in, they'd find out what was broken about me, and then not only would they know, I'd know too. And the next few books I want to talk about have also a focus on romance in some way, but I feel like their main theme is just figuring out life in general, trying to deal with all the negative emotions that can come with living a life, and they have a particular focus on characters in their 20s. So the next book is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and I think the overall theme that exists within this book is feeling detached from reality, and as a consequence feeling quite a severe loneliness. And I read this book when I was at university, and it had a deep impact on me. I had never really read a character before that I sort of related to as much as the character in this book. Thankfully now, I think if I read it again, I wouldn't relate to her so much, because I think I fortunately feel more connected to the world around me than I did when I was at university. But I think it's easy to feel that way in your 20s, detached from life, because when you're a child, life, although it's changing all the time, it kind of stays the same in that you're at school and you have a routine. And then when you leave school, leave university, and you go out into the world, I found that life can change a lot of the time. You can't always stay in the same flat and stay in the same job, and you can't always stay around the same groups of people. So I think that can cause feelings of detachment, because you don't really have something stable and secure to hold on to and to make you feel grounded. And I think if you're feeling like that, this is probably a book that is very good for you, because it will be something to relate to. I took a deep breath and listened to the old brag of my heart. I am. And along the same vein, next we have My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which I read last year. And I think the character in this book is kind of similar to the character in The Bell Jar. I think she's a little bit more unhinged, we could say. She does maybe some more questionable things than the character in The Bell Jar does. But I think the feelings that she feels are quite similar to the character in The Bell Jar, in that she feels quite lonely. And the plot of this novel is that she just wants to sleep for a year. She thinks if she sleeps for a year, afterwards she will be reborn, and she will no longer have this sadness and this grief and this loneliness that encompasses her. And I think that's a really interesting idea. And I think maybe there's a part of all of us that would just like to kind of hibernate for a bit, to recover from things that we have gone through, or to just kind of rest. It's an interesting idea that this book has. I really like the idea behind it, the concept of someone trying to sleep for a year. Oh, sleep. Nothing else could ever bring me such pleasure, such freedom, the power to feel and move and think and imagine, safe from the miseries of my waking consciousness. Then we have Wild by Cheryl Strayed, which is a non-fiction book. And this book is about a woman who decides to walk a long way. And she decides to go on this really long walk because her mother has recently died. She's also going through a divorce, and she had found herself as being a 26-year-old and kind of not knowing what to do with her life and who she was. And so she decided to just walk for, I can't remember how long she walked for, maybe 3 months, something like that. I'll look it up. Yes, around 3 months. And she walked the Pacific Crest Trail, and it's 1,100 miles. What I really liked about this book is how you can sort of go through the adventure with Cheryl. And I think separating yourself from everything you associate with yourself can really help you figure out who you are and what you want. And that's what Cheryl does, really. And the novel isn't just about the walk. Cheryl also reveals a lot about what her marriage was like and what her relationship with her mother was like. And we kind of learn how she came to be at this point in her life where she was going on this walk. I'm a free spirit who never had the balls to be free. So now I thought I'd talk about some books that kind of have interesting plots. And the first one is Bunny by Mona Awad. And I finished this the other day. And this book is about a girl called Samantha who is doing a master's degree in writing at this university in New England, I believe. And she meets these girls who call each other Bunny, and they have some kind of cult, and Samantha is invited to their get together one evening, and some very odd things occur. And that's all I will say, because I went into this book not really knowing what it was about, and I think that really aided to my enjoyment of the novel. And I'm not so sure what the meaning of this novel is, because some weird things happen, and I think it's open to interpretation. You can kind of decide what you think the purpose of the novel was, and I'm not so sure. I think maybe I can sit with it for a bit, and maybe I will come to some decisions over what I think the reason for why things happen, the reason behind why things happened. But even though I may not understand some of the things in the novel, it was very entertaining, and I was completely enthralled the whole way through. And the writing is the highlight of this novel, I think. what great lines it had. I'm quiet as rainbows, I am still as trees. I watch them close their so pretty eyes. I close mine too, but somehow I can still see. The room is creepy serious, quieter than even my rainbow quiet. They begin to chant some indiscernible words. It makes the pony in me clap its hooves and dance. And yeah, the writing is kind of wild as the story. Why do you lie so much? And about the weirdest little things my mother always asked me. I don't know, I always said, but I did know. It was very simple because it was a better story. And then finally, I wanted to mention Convenience Store Woman. This book is about a woman who works in a convenience store, and she loves working in the convenience store. And what I liked about this novel was its commentary on jobs. It looked at how we view careers and the hierarchy that exists within careers, and how it doesn't really mean anything. What is most important is doing something you love, even if it's not traditionally valued within society. And I love the protagonist. She couldn't quite understand why anyone would think it would be a bad thing for her to work in a convenience store her whole life, because she loved it. And what could be wrong with doing something you loved? And I loved her view on life in this way. I think that that's a good view to have. If you're doing something you love, even if people look down on it, why should it matter? Because you love it. And I don't believe this character is in her 20s, I think she's in her 30s, but I have mentioned this book here because I think when you're in your 20s, you're of course at the beginning of your career. Even at the end of your 20s, there's a chance you're still probably at the beginning of your career. I mean, I'm an English teacher now, but I don't know if I will be in the future. I don't know what jobs I will end up having, and I think it's a topical point when you're in your 20s, like your career and what you're doing with your life. And I think this book helped me not put so much pressure on myself to like have to be in the right job, because as long as you like what you do, then that's the most important thing. People who are considered normal enjoy putting those who aren't on trial. Okay, so those are some books that I've read that are kind of about being in your 20s and helped me navigate my 20s. And let me know if you have any recommendations within this theme or any recommendations in general. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye bye!